Hello everyone and welcome to today's video. Now today I'm going to be showing you my collection of the popular 60s group Hermits. Now it's predominantly singles and EPs, but I have got a small number of albums. So I'll start off with the 7 inches. And first of all we have their first single, I'm Into Something Good, which is one of their most famous songs. And I think it's fairly unusual anyway that a 60s band's very first single was a big hit, because a lot of famous 60s bands, their first couple of singles kind of didn't chart and faded into obscurity, but this one didn't. And Your Hand in Mine is the B-side. This came out in 1964 and it's a really good track. Still heard a lot on the radio today. And here we have a promo for the next single, and that is Show Me Girl. Also pretty good. Both this song and I'm Into Something Good are Goff and King compositions. There's the B-side. And here is the regular single version of Show Me Girl. On the Columbia label. And here we have the next single, Silhouettes. Also a very good one. And this came out in 1965. And Can't You Hear My Heartbeat, which is actually, I would say, just as famous as the A-side, is on the B-side. Both songs are well known. And also very good. And here we have what I believe to be a custom-made picture sleeve. So this is not anything official. This is just something someone's made in the past for Herman's single, Silhouettes. So, as you can see, it's actually just a Columbia sleeve on the back, but they've pasted a picture of the band on the front cover. And that's Peter Noon in the middle, which is his real name. Obviously, his name isn't Herman. And there's the single, which is more or less the same as my other copy. And here we have a cover of the Sam Cooke song, Wonderful World. Now, I actually first heard this song by Hermits before I heard Sam Cooke's version, and I like both versions in different ways. And the Hermits version is a bit more up-tempo, a bit faster, and a bit more poppy, but it's still very, very good, very, very catchy. And I think it's an excellent single. And it's got one of my favourite Hermits B-sides on the flip here, and that's Dream On. Good one, very good B-side. They enjoyed pretty good chart success with their early singles, Hermits, which is a good thing. I'm happy that they got off the ground pretty quickly. And here we have the single Just a Little Bit Better. Now, this one's important to me just because this is the very first Hermits song that I heard. And I heard it on an old episode of Top of the Pops, which I was watching on TV one night. And that was the first time I'd ever heard of Hermits. And this is, of course, a promo copy with the release date of 20th of August 1965 on the centre there. And here's the regular single version. And now we have A Must to Avoid, which is a single that appeared on their film, which they released in, I believe, 1965, called Hold On. And I'll show you the soundtrack to that later on in the video. But the single's from that film, and it's very good as well. And The Man with a Cigar is also a good B-side. A lot of Hermits songs could be perceived as being quite cheesy, but I've always liked Hermits, and any potential cheeses never bothered me. So anyway, this is a single called You Won't Be Leaving, 1966, this one. And the B-side, which I actually prefer to the A-side, is Listen People. Very good track. And the next one is yet another promo copy, And this single is This Door Swings Both Ways. And although I've always been quite fond of this song, I remember I once watched an interview with Peter Noon, and he talked about this song, and he was never a fan of it just because the lyrics were particularly corny. Like everything in life is bittersweet, and this door swings. You know, it's just quite a cheesy one, I suppose. And there's the B-side, For Love. And that was 17th of June 1966, that one came out. And of course, here's the regular stock copy. I like the Columbia sleeves that accompany these singles. They can be red or green. And this one here is a song called No Milk Today, which is one of the more well-known ones from this period. And there's the B-side, My Reservation's Been Confirmed. And the next single that I've got is one entitled East West, still in 1966. And this single's got a solid centre. They were becoming more common by the mid-60s. And it's backed with What Is Wrong, What Is Right. And here we have the song There's a Kind of Hush, which is another more popular one from this mid-60s period. And also probably one of my favourites as well. And it's backed with Gaslight Street. And this is from 1967. And here we have another promo for a slightly more obscure single by Herman's Hermits, not one you hear of very often. And that's one called Museum. Pretty good single though. And I actually really like the B-side on this one, Moonshine Man. It's a slightly unusual song in terms of style for Herman's Hermits, but I think it's a really good one. Came out 7th of July 1967, so just over 50 years ago now. 50 years this month. And here's the regular single version. And this next one's actually one of my favourite Herman's Hermits singles, and I just think it's such a nice little catchy song, and that's called I Can Take or Leave Your Loving. And here's a promo. It's got a nice Radio Colchester stamp there. I've actually got a few promos in my collection from Radio Colchester, not just Herman's Hermits, but a few different bands and artists, all bought independently as well, which is interesting. So Radio Colchester must have had quite the collection. But anyway, this one came out on the 29th of December 1967, so right at the end of the year. And Marcel's is the B-side. And there's the single. And here we have Sleepy Joe, 1968. And Just One Girl is on the B-side. And next from 1968 we have a song called Sunshine Girl, which is also a nice song. 5th of July 1968. And the B-side on this one is called Nobody Needs to Know, and I think this potentially could be Herman's Hermits' finest ever B-side. It's a really nice song. And the normal version. There we go. Take it out of its sleeve. Sunshine Girl and Nobody Needs to Know. And I've got a duplicate copy of that one, so I'll not bother showing that. But the next single I've got is Something's Happening. and this one has a push-out centre rather than a solid centre. And the most beautiful thing in my life is the B-side. And here we have one of my favourite later Hermits singles, and this is My Sentimental Friend. And this is 1969 now, so we're almost out of the 60s. And My Lady is the B-side. To be honest, Hermits didn't really exist past kind of 1969, 1970. And there's the solo copy. Bit of wear to the B-side there, unfortunately. And here we have Here Comes the Star. A lot of these later singles aren't very well known. I suppose that's just because the music scene was changing by this point, and Hermits were kind of not necessarily outdated, but just their music wasn't really the sort of music people were particularly after at the time. It was a lot more experimental. But that's not to say their music decreased in quality by any means by the end of the decade. I don't think it did anyway. And then we have in 1970, Years May Come, Years May Go, and I would say this is probably the last reasonably well-known Hermits single. I've heard this on the radio a few times on 60s shows. And again, this came from Radio Colchester. Came out in January 1970. And Smile Please is the B-side. And there's the single version of it on the black Columbia label. And now I've just got a few Peter Noone solo singles, because as I said, Hermits kind of ceased to exist after 1970. So we've got one here called Bet Your Life I Do from 1970. So this is kind of it's still credited to Hermits technically, although to be honest, this is kind of Hermits on his last legs, if you like. And Searching for the Southern Sun is the B-side. And then we've got here Lady Barbara, and that's credited to Peter Noone and Hermits. So it's within a year changed to Peter Noone and Hermits. But during the 70s, the so-called Peter Noone and Hermits wasn't actually the original lineup of Hermits. From the 60s, it was a largely different band. That's Lady Barbara. And Don't Just Stand There is the B-side. And this actually has a nice factory sample not for sale sticker on it. And this is on Rack. So they're no longer on Columbia. The last single was on Rack as well, actually. And here we have another copy of Lady Barbara, except this is a solid centre copy. And it hasn't got that promo sticker that was on the last one. Okay, so that's the singles done, and now I'll quickly show you their discography of EPs. They released, I think, 6 or 7 EPs in the 60s. So I'll start with this one, Hermania, which has some of their early material on. It's got Sea Cruise, which has been done by many people, and I like Herman's version of that. Mother-in-Law, which I believe is also a cover version, but I can't remember who did the original. But that's one of my favourite Hermits tracks. I think they do a really good version of that. I Understand, which again I've heard done by a couple of different people, including Freddie and the Dreamers actually. And Thinking of You is the 4th song. But nevertheless, it's a very good EP. And there's the back of Hermania. bit of a write-up there. And this came out in December 1964. And it's on the Columbia label, similar to the singles. And the next EP that they released was Mrs. Brown, You've Got a Lovely Daughter, which, like I'm Henry the Eighth I Am, is a very famous song by them. One of the most famous, I would say, but was never released as a single in the UK. But I suppose the EP market was pretty big over here in the early 60s anyway, so I suppose it didn't make a great deal of difference. And there's the 4 tracks: Mrs. Brown, I Know Why, Show Me Girl, and Your Hand in Mine. On Mrs. Brown, You've Got a Lovely Daughter. That's an example of Peter Noone really kind of hammering up his British accent, because apparently that was kind of a large part of Herman's appeal, just the kind of cute English presentation. And there's the Columbia labels, same as on the Hermania EP. And here we have the EP Herman's Hermits Hits. And this is just what it says on the tin. It's got 4 of their hits. It's got Silhouettes, Wonderful World, Can't You Hear My Heartbeat, and I'm Into Something Good. And all 4 of those are tremendous tracks, I think. And it advertises the previous 2 EPs on the back, Hermania and Mrs. Brown, You've Got a Lovely Daughter. And this one came out in August of 1965. And there's the record for it. And side 2. And here we have the EP A Must To Avoid. And this has I Must To Avoid, I'm Henry the Eighth I Am, which, as I mentioned earlier, was a single in the US, I believe, but not in the UK, even though it is a very famous Hermits song. And Just a Little Bit Better and Walking With My Baby. And it advertises the 2 previous EPs there. This one came out in April of 1966. And there's the label for it. Now this next EP is something quite interesting. It's called The London Look. However, it was never commercially available in record shops. This EP was only attainable with the purchase of a certain fragrance, and I think it was something by Yardley. And I think you had to buy so many bottles of that, and then you'll be able to send away for this EP. And it says there at the top, record sponsored by Yardley. And it says at the bottom, whilst the full title London Look is a song which was specially written for the group and makes its debut on this EP, but the other 3 tracks are just already issued material. Mrs. Brown, You've Got a Lovely Daughter, Normal Today, There's a Kind of Hush, and promotion record not for sale. So this is an exclusive item with that fragrance, and that's kind of reaffirmed by the very colourful and, one might say, almost psychedelic label here. I think it looks really cool though. A bright pink Hermits label, promotion record not for sale. And the song London Look is the exclusive material that you get with this, but the rest of it's nothing new, but it's still nice to have. And the next EP is the British version of the soundtrack to the Hermits film Hold On. Now in the US it was reissued as an LP, which I'll show you shortly. However, in the UK it was reissued as an EP. Sorry, it was issued as an EP, and so you get 6 songs, I believe, on here. Obviously, there's more in the US LP, and here it is. Let's take a look at the track listing. 6 songs for an EP is actually very good value for money. It's normally 4. So you get Where Were You When I Needed You, Hold On, George and the Dragon, All the Things I Do For You Baby, Wild Love, and A Must To Avoid. And I would say every track on here is good. So it's a very nice EP. And this came out in September 1966, so that'll be when the film came out, not 1965, as I think I said earlier on. And there's the usual Columbia label. And the last EP that I've got for Herman's Hermits is Dandy, or the Dandy EP. Now, this song was written by Ray Davies, who was the lead singer of the Kinks. And apparently he wrote the song Dandy and also the song Dedicated Follower of Fashion at the same time. And I once read that he offered the Herman's Hermits the choice of which of the 2 songs they wanted, and they chose Dandy because they thought that would be more their style. And so the Kinks released Dedicated Follower of Fashion as a single, which was a chart success and a very good song. And the Kinks actually did Dandy on their LP Face to Face, but they never released it as a single or anything. But Herman's Hermits released an EP with Dandy on it in the UK, and this is it. And I have to admit, it's I think it works quite well with both bands, but I can certainly see Herman's Hermits doing this type of song. And there's the back of the EP. So you get Dandy, Dream On, No Milk Today, and For Love. And here's the Columbia label one last time. Late 1966. I think say Dandy is credited to Davies for the songwriting. And now for the last portion of the video, I'm just going to show you the Herman's Hermits LPs that I've got. I've got some UK ones and I've got some US ones. And the first one I've got is their debut album in England. And it's self-titled, just called Herman's Hermits. And I like the old sticker that's on it there. And I'll show you the back. So it's quite a plain design on the back of the sleeve. You've just got right up on the right hand side there, and just Herman's Hermits on the left, and you've got the track listing in the middle. So I've got a few cover versions on here, including Heartbeat, which is Buddy Holly originally, Travelling Light, which I've heard done by lots of people, and I think the version of that song with which I'm now most familiar is Cliff Richard's. However, when I first heard this album, I think that was the first time I actually heard the song, and lots of other tracks. It includes I'm Henry VIII and Mrs. Brown, You've Got a Lovely Daughter, both popular songs. I like The End of the World as well. That's a really, really nice song. And this came out in June of 1965 amidst their chart success with some of their early singles. And of course this is on the Columbia label as well. And there's side 2. And the next LP that I've got by Herman's Hermits came out in November of 1966 and is called Both Sides of Herman's Hermits. There's the back. And here's the track listing. I wouldn't say it's an absolutely terrific album, but it's pretty good. Got some good songs on it. Interestingly, it's got a song from the Hold On soundtrack, Where Were You When I Needed You, And my favourite song on here is probably Listen People, side 2, track 6. It's got a George Formby cover, I think, of Leaning on a Lamppost, which was exactly the sort of stuff they were doing around this time. But it's not a bad album by any means. I don't really think there was very many songs that Herman's Hermits did that I'm not a fan of. And there's the Columbia label again, 1966. Now here we have another LP called Both Sides of Herman's Hermits. However, this is the American version. Now the really interesting thing is, not only is the cover different, but the track listing is also very different. So despite the fact they share the same name, they're different in almost every other way. Obviously they're on a different label in the US, but there's the back of the US version. And here is the track listing for the US version. So it's got a few songs from the UK one, like Bus Stop and For Love and one or two others. However, the entirety of side 2 pretty much is exclusive to the US release, and a lot of it is it's not even pop music really. It's almost just like covers of 40s stuff, and it's kind of it's basically just them doing loads of stuff in Cockney accents and all sorts of weird stuff like that. It's I don't know how to describe it really, but if you get a chance to give this a listen, you'll know what I mean. But it's not really serious music anyway. And here's the inner sleeve, which advertises LPs by other artists. Including Herman's Hermits, actually. And in the US, Herman's Hermits were on the MGM label. And here we have another American LP, and this is Hold On, and this is the entire soundtrack to the film, not just the 6 songs that were available on the UK EP. And as much as I do like the EP that was released in the UK, obviously the LP is superior, or at least in my opinion anyway. And this is also on MGM, and I'll show you the back. There it is there. Hold On, Herman's Hermits. And here are the tracks for this release. So yeah, Hold On, The Georgian Dragon, Wild Love, Where Were You When I Needed You, All the Things I Do For You Baby and I Must To Avoid, which were the 6 songs from the EP. However, you also get Got a Feeling, Leaning on a Lamppost, Gotta Get Away, Make Me Happy. So you get 4 more songs than is on the UK EP. Although to be fair, 10 songs on an LP isn't a great number. So I can kind of see why they went for the 6 song EP. But anyway, it's a nice LP. And here's the MGM label. And the next LP I've got is a compilation album, The Best of Herman's Hermits. And you can get a UK version of this, I believe, but I believe the pressing I've got is actually Canadian. And there's the tracks down there. It's a very good place to start if you want to get into Herman's Hermits, just a little compilation album like this. It's got a lot of their very best songs on it. And there's the back with some images of the band. And this is on a label called Quality, which is just no doubt some budget label. Has a good sound to it though, to be fair. And these songs are in stereo as well, which is fairly unusual, or at least it's interesting to hear, considering pretty much all the 60s vinyl would be in mono. And the last LP I've got is a Music for Pleasure album called My Sentimental Friend, Herman's Hermits. And this just has it's a mixture of singles and a lot of slightly more obscure Herman's Hermits material. And there's the back, pretty plain. And the label is just the usual red MFP label there. And just to finish off, I thought I'd show you this little CD I bought a few years ago for the grand sum of 99p. It's Peter Noon's Herman's Hermits, as I mentioned earlier on, so this is not like the original lineup really, it's just Peter Noon with a different band. And I'm at Something Good's the name of the CD. It's basically a live album, as it says at the bottom there, the concert collection. But it's actually a very, very nice little live album as well. I quite often listen to this CD. And it's got pretty much all of Herman's Hermits hits, plus a few covers such as Needles and Pins. And it's overall a very, very nice, upbeat, flamboyant live album. Peter Noon puts in a great live performance. And the CD came out, I think, in the 90s or possibly even early 90s. I'm looking for a date. Yeah, 1997 is when the CD came out, so I'm assuming that's when this concert was recorded, but I don't know, it doesn't actually say. But it's still a very nice CD. And there's the disc that comes with it. Okay, so that's the end of my Herman's Hermits collection. I really hope you enjoyed seeing these, and I just want to thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.